Cleveland didn't make the right move with this particular draft, but the man did help them win a Super Bowl after the Chip Kelly disaster. He came back, took over, helped deliver a Super Bowl. He had a part in hiring Peterson, obviously. You see the roster that they assembled. I can't point the finger at Roseman, and I'm not even questioning Peterson in terms of his capabilities. I am saying that you look at him and Wentz, and clearly, that is not a marriage that is going to last. It needs to be a divorce.
Stephen A, real quick.
Since I'm stuck with Wentz's ability at 28 years of age, I'm going to get rid of the coach before I get rid of that brother.
Real quick, because I think you pointed to something that tells me Peterson wants out. If the quarterback can't get it done, and you have capable running backs who can make gains in the run game, I understand not running the ball on first down and being predictable. You don't run the ball at all? Like first 15 plays, you're not going to run the ball at all? To me, that's the coach who's saying, okay, tough guy. Okay, Wentz, you don't want to run my offense? Okay, here, go ahead, do your thing. Let's see what you can do. And the answer is nothing.
All right.
We can go with that. We
We'll
can go with that.
Philly has not drafted a Pro Bowl player since Wentz, and that was back in 2014. Meanwhile, DK Metcalf, Seattle, they're in a different trajectory, everybody. Seattle is 8-3, good for the second seed in this loaded NFC playoff picture. Everyone is chasing the Saints at 9-2. Stephen A., what do you think? Do you think Seattle should be the favorites right now in the NFC?
Not going to lie to you. Right now, I'm looking at them in that fashion. That certainly wasn't the case before. I'm still holding out hope for Tampa Bay. But Seattle, to me, in terms of their balance, the pickup of Dunlap, Adams coming back healthy, having some balance on that defense with Metcalf being the stud that he is and Russell Wilson being who he is, I would have to say yeah right now.
Look, Dunlap was a good pickup. And with Wagner and Adams healthy, that defense should get better, although last night was not an indication. That's just the Eagles. I would say it's got to be the Saints, though. And I went back and forth preseason between these two teams in the NFC. And the reason I think it's the Saints, Stephen A., is actually because of a quirk of the way things worked out. Drew Brees got hurt. So that's bad. But if he comes back with enough runway, the man had a rest. And he's been beaten up by the end of most of these seasons, and he's looked bad in the playoffs in the moment of truth. But this is different now. Now Drew Brees will not have played those bunch of games, probably shouldn't look as worn down. Plus, he's extra motivated because this might be it. Probably the last season. He was thinking about retiring last season, right? So if this is it, he's on the best team that he's been on in years, maybe ever. They picked up Emmanuel Sanders, who's now healthy and playing. Michael Thomas. They have their number 2 receiver, Sanders, to go with Thomas. They have Kamara. They have everything he needs. They picked up Quan Alexander. Who can really play, but he had a big contract because he's good. That's how they were able to get him, right, from San Francisco. I think the motivation for Brees combined with the well-roundedness of the Saints, including on the defensive end, makes them my pick in the NFC. I think they're the team to beat.
Can't blame you for that, but I feel differently because I think the absence of Drew Brees could potentially come back to haunt them, even though he's going to get it together. And you know that he's going to be precise and accurate for the most part. He's not somebody that necessarily moves the chains with his running ability. So as a result of that, it's compromised them in the past. Now, I know you're looking at Taysom Hill and you're seeing what he's doing, particularly with running the football. So that's a dual threat that Sean Payton can find a way to maneuver and utilize. But in the end, it's still a situation where you robbing Peter to pay Paul. Either Drew Brees is going to get the snaps or he's going to be compromised to some degree because Taysom Hill is going to get the snaps. We don't have to worry about that with Seattle and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is going to be there consistently, pretty much for every down, obviously avoiding it if he avoids injury. And his ability to run with the football and move the chains along with throwing the football and having a stud like Metcalf and having Lockett and Carson coming back to run the football and add that Rough Rider element to the equation, along with Greg Olsen. I think that, I didn't see him last night. I don't know how hurt he is or whatever, but you're anticipating that he'll be back at some point being the tight end for Seattle. I just look at the multitude of weapons and the fact that they've improved their defense, and I think this is a team that obviously they can't be ignored. But right now, at this particular moment in time, if I had to choose between the two, it would be Seattle because New Orleans may not have that consistency because Drew Brees has been out and he has to come back. And it's not that he's not going to be great, but if you're going up against greatness, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, potentially Tom Brady. You got all of that going on. That's a lot to ask of Drew Brees. It's not that he can't do it.
Well,
I'm just simply saying I wouldn't bet my money at this particular moment in time that he'd be the one to do that over those teams. Not necessarily Tampa, because we know what they did to Tampa, but definitely Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson.
I'll take Russell Wilson over the combination of Drew Brees and Taysom Hill also. Although Drew Brees and Taysom Hill is a lot. But I'll take the Saints defense over the Seahawks defense. And I think offensively, they're comparable in terms of what they're capable of if they're clicking on all cylinders, right? And also, the Saints have been playing their, better football recently, and that's even without Drew Brees. Let me say one thing quick about the upside of having Taysom Hill and Drew Brees not in the same person like Seattle does in the form of Russell Wilson. When Taysom Hill's on the field, especially now that we see he can actually run the team's offense competently, we'll see over time, but at least you can see he can run it competently. When he's on the field, with Drew Brees especially, how does the defense know what's going to happen? We see that he can throw the ball and he can read a defense well enough. He can obviously run. He can block if he has to, and he can catch. All at acceptable NFL levels for a position, a guy who gets real rotation on an NFL team. So, in fact, even though, yes, Russell Wilson is better than the two of those guys because all those skills are kind of in one guy, Taysom Hill has just shown when he's if you want to consider him a gadget player, when Drew Brees is on the field, fine. But, he's one of the all-time gadget players. If anything, it makes them even more dangerous.
Well, again, under most circumstances, you'd be right. But if you're going up against the consistent excellence of Russell Wilson, that's a different ball game altogether. Number two, notice that Seattle is never out of any game. They're always chipping away. They're always right there. They're always in nail biters. You don't blow out the Seattle Seahawks. They don't wet beds, per se. They show up week in and week out, regardless of what their troubles may be. And the fact that they've addressed their weakness, which is on the defensive side of the ball, is something that I don't think can be ignored, because you're going to have a tougher time scoring against them. Meanwhile, Seattle, because of its consistency, its continuity, the excellence of Russell Wilson, along with the bevy of weapons that he has available to him, particularly with his favorite runner coming back into the lineup last night, I think that puts Seattle in a favorable position at this particular moment in time. And other teams are going to have to step up in order to knock them off.